Buddhism is a religion of atheism. Why this misconception exists. Chapter 1. The Root of Misconception, Buddhism and the Question of God. When Western scholars first encountered Buddhism, they often came from a very different place. A place where the idea of a creator God was not just a belief, but the very foundation of their worldview. They were used to religions that centered around a divine being, a supreme power responsible for the creation of everything. So when they turned their attention to Buddhism, they found something quite different. There was no creator God, no deity to worship in the traditional sense. The Buddha himself was not presented as a god, but as a human being who had awakened to the truth of existence. This lack of a central divine figure led many to the conclusion that Buddhism must therefore be an atheistic religion. It was a logical, if perhaps too quick, assumption. But the Buddha's approach to those big metaphysical questions, the ones about the ultimate nature of reality, was not one of simple denial. He didn't say there was no God. Instead, he chose silence. He didn't engage in debates about whether or not a God existed. Why? Because he saw these questions as a distraction, a detour from the real path. He believed that focusing on these abstract questions would only lead to more confusion and suffering. What mattered, he said, was understanding the nature of suffering and finding the way to end it. He was like someone who sees a house on fire, focusing on extinguishing the flames rather than debating how the fire started. There is a beautiful image that comes from Zen Buddhism that speaks directly to this idea, like a wild fox trying to catch the wind. Imagine a fox chasing after the wind, trying to grasp something that is by its very nature elusive. This illustrates how futile it is to try to understand ultimate truth through intellectual concepts, through rigid beliefs. The reality of existence, the way Buddhists understand it, is not something that can be captured by words, by fixed ideas, or by theories. It is something that needs to be experienced directly, in the here and now, through practice and mindful awareness. This is a radical idea, and it's one that both atheists and theists often struggle with. An atheist might see the absence of a God as a point of agreement, while a theist might see it as a rejection of the divine. But both of these views, in a way, miss the essential point. Buddhism is about going beyond these labels, beyond the need to cling to any fixed belief. The Buddha was a master of skillful means. He knew that engaging in endless arguments about the existence or non-existence of God would not be helpful to those who were genuinely seeking a way to end their suffering. He was not interested in winning debates, but in guiding people towards liberation. In the Tavijja Sutta, for example, we find the Buddha encountering a group of Brahmins who are deeply engaged in an argument about the best way to reach Brahma, the creator God of their tradition. Instead of joining in their debate, he redirected the focus to the importance of ethical conduct, to living a life of kindness and compassion, and to the cultivation of mindful awareness. He shifted the focus from abstract speculation to the very practical matter of how we live our lives. Then there's the story of Vakshagata, a wanderer who came to the Buddha with a question. Did the Buddha believe that the self exists? And then, did he believe that the self does not exist? The Buddha remained silent to both questions. Vakshagata was perplexed and asked why. The Buddha explained that to affirm either existence or non-existence of a self would lead to clinging to views, which are the very source of suffering. He taught a middle way. a way that avoids the extremes of both affirmation and denial. It was a way of moving beyond the limits of rigid, dualistic thinking. The Buddha often used the analogy, "My teaching is like a finger pointing to the moon." The finger is not the moon itself, and it would be foolish to get so caught up in the finger that we forget to look at the moon. In the same way, the teachings of the Buddha are not the ultimate truth, but a guide, a tool to help us experience that truth for ourselves. He wasn't trying to create a new belief system, but to guide people toward direct experience, to liberation. He wanted people to see beyond concepts and beliefs, to realize the nature of reality for themselves. That's why he didn't take a position on the existence of a god or gods. His focus was on the nature of suffering and how to end it, not on winning theological arguments. Chapter 2. Beyond Belief and Disbelief, the Buddhist Vision. What if the true heart of Buddhism lies not in whether or not a god exists, but in something far more profound? This is where we move beyond the limitations of simply believing or not believing in a deity. It's a journey into a deeper understanding of the cosmos, the nature of reality, and the path of personal transformation. The living cosmos. The Buddhist view of the cosmos is quite different from those that focus on a single creator. It's a universe teeming with life, a vast expanse of interconnectedness, filled with different realms and beings, not just the human one. Buddha himself, during his life, is said to have encountered devas and brahmas, which are often translated as gods or celestial beings, but are more accurately understood as beings existing in different realms of consciousness. These encounters are not about a hierarchical system with a supreme god at the top, but rather about the complex interconnectedness of all life. One story that really highlights this is the story of Brahma Sahampati. After the Buddha's enlightenment, he initially hesitated to teach, thinking that the truth he had realized was too profound for anyone to understand. It was Brahma Sahampati, a being from a higher realm, who came to the Buddha and urged him to teach. He argued that there were beings in the world who were ready to hear the truth. This is a very significant moment, showing that even beings in other realms recognize the Buddha's unique wisdom and the value of his teachings. The Buddha is often referred to as teacher of gods and humans. This title isn't about him being a god himself, but about his unique position as someone who had awakened to the truth of reality and could guide beings from all realms toward liberation. It shows the respect and reverence that even those in higher realms had for the Buddha's teachings. It's also a recognition of the universality of his message, that the path to awakening is open to all beings, regardless of their realm of existence. Buddhist cosmology is not a literal map of the universe, but rather a framework for understanding the nature of consciousness. It's a way of explaining that reality is not just what we see, but a vast, multi-layered experience. There are realms of suffering, realms of pleasure, and realms beyond both, all of them interconnected and arising from the same source, consciousness. This understanding goes beyond a simple belief in a creator and invites us to see ourselves as part of a much larger, more complex reality. The nature of reality. Buddhism emphasizes direct experience over speculative thinking, and this is a key aspect of its approach to understanding reality. The Kalama Sutta, for example, is a very well-known teaching where the Buddha advises the Kalamas not to accept anything just because it's been passed down through tradition, because it's in the scriptures, or because it's what everyone else believes. Instead, he tells them to investigate for themselves, to test the teachings through their own experience. This is a very empirical approach, a kind of scientific method applied to the study of the mind and reality. The Buddha was not interested in blind faith. He was interested in the truth. He encouraged people to question everything, to investigate everything for themselves, and to come to their own understanding through direct experience. This is why the teachings of the Buddha are not meant to be taken as dogma, but as a path of inquiry. The goal is not to believe what the Buddha said, but to see the truth for yourself. The Heart Sutra, one of the most profound texts in Buddhist literature, presents the idea of emptiness, or sunyata. This isn't about nothingness, but rather the idea that all things are empty of inherent existence. They don't have a fixed, permanent, independent self. Instead, they arise in dependence on other things. Form is emptiness, and emptiness is form, the sutra says. It's a way of explaining that there is no separation between the mind and the universe, that they are fundamentally interconnected and interdependent. This concept of the inseparability of mind and universe is a core teaching in Buddhism. We are not separate observers of the world, but rather part of it. Our minds are not locked inside our heads, but rather part of the larger field of consciousness that is the universe. This understanding is not about believing in some abstract concept, but about experiencing the interconnectedness of all things directly, and this realization brings a sense of deep peace and understanding. The path of investigation. The Buddha's approach can be seen as a kind of scientific method applied to the study of the mind. He encouraged people to observe their own experience, to pay attention to their thoughts, feelings, and sensations, and to investigate the nature of reality for themselves. He didn't ask people to blindly believe what he taught, but to put his teachings into practice and verify their truth through their own experience. His invitation was always, "Come and see for yourself." He wasn't asking people to accept his words on faith, but to explore their own minds, to observe their own experience, and to come to their own conclusions. This is a very empowering message, placing the responsibility for understanding truth directly in the hands of the individual. It was not about believing in a set of doctrines, but about embarking on a path of self-discovery. The Buddhist path is full of stories of transformation through practice. People from all walks of life, through the practice of meditation, mindfulness, and ethical conduct, have been able to transform their lives, reduce their suffering, and awaken to the truth of reality. These stories are not just inspirational, but they are also a testament to the effectiveness of the Buddhist path. In a way, modern science and Buddhist wisdom are starting to meet. Both approaches emphasize the importance of observation, investigation, and direct experience. While science explores the physical world through the scientific method, Buddhism explores the inner world through the practice of meditation and mindfulness. When these two approaches meet, they often shed new light on the nature of reality and on the potential of human consciousness. Chapter 3. Living Wisdom, Beyond Labels and Views. What if the profound insights we've explored weren't just abstract ideas, but a practical guide for living a more meaningful life? This isn't about simply adopting a new set of beliefs. It's about integrating the wisdom of the Buddha into our everyday experiences, unlocking greater freedom, understanding, and genuine well-being. One of the most important teachings of the Buddha is about the freedom from views. He taught that clinging to any fixed opinion, whether it is a belief or a disbelief, can become a trap. This is because our views, our opinions, are often based on limited information, on our own biases and conditioning. When we cling to them, we become rigid and closed off to new perspectives, to the possibility of a deeper understanding. The Brahmajala Sutta is a powerful teaching that explores this idea. In this discourse, the Buddha meticulously examines and deconstructs a wide range of philosophical viewpoints prevalent during his time. He shows how each of these views, while seeming to offer a complete picture of reality, are actually limited and flawed. He highlights the dangers of getting caught up in these views and the importance of moving beyond them to a more open and flexible way of seeing the world. The Buddha explains that both belief and non-belief can become traps. When we believe too strongly in something, we become attached to that belief and closed off to any other possibility. But when we disbelieve too strongly, we become equally rigid, equally closed off to the possibility of something beyond our current understanding. The real freedom, the Buddha taught, is to move beyond both belief and disbelief, to see things as they are, without the filter of our opinions and biases. There are countless stories of practitioners who have found truth beyond concepts. These are stories of people who have let go of their fixed views and discovered a deeper sense of peace and understanding. They are stories of people who have broken free from the limitations of their own minds and awakened to a more expansive view of reality. These stories are not about believing in something, but about the transformation that happens when we let go of our opinions and open ourselves to new possibilities. Buddhism offers a unique approach to knowledge and truth. It's not about accepting something on faith, but about investigating it for yourself, about verifying it through your own direct experience. This is why the Buddhist path is often described as a path of practice, path of self-discovery. It's not about believing in a set of doctrines, but about engaging in a process of transformation. The essence of Buddhist practice is to bring mindfulness and awareness to every aspect of daily life. It's about paying attention to our thoughts, feelings, and sensations, about being present in the moment, and about cultivating kindness and compassion toward ourselves and others. It's not something that's confined to the meditation cushion, but something that can be integrated into all of our activities, whether we are working, eating, or simply walking down the street. This understanding transcends religious boundaries. The principles of mindfulness, compassion, and ethical conduct are not unique to Buddhism. They are universal values that can be found in many traditions. This is why Buddhist wisdom is relevant to people from all walks of life, regardless of their religious or cultural background. It's not about converting to a new religion, but about cultivating a way of living that leads to greater happiness and well-being. There are countless real-world examples of how Buddhist wisdom is being applied in various fields. From mental health to education, from business to social justice, the principles of mindfulness and compassion are being used to create positive change in the world. These examples show that Buddhist wisdom is not just a set of abstract ideas, but a practical tool for living a more meaningful and fulfilling life. Integration and application. The real power of Buddhist wisdom lies in its ability to bridge the gap between ancient traditions and modern understanding. It's not about clinging to the past, but about using the wisdom of the past to navigate the challenges of the present. It's about finding ways to integrate these timeless principles into our modern lives. There are many practical methods for investigating reality. The practice of meditation, for example, is a powerful tool for developing mindfulness and awareness. Ethical conduct, based on the principles of kindness and compassion, is another way of transforming our lives and creating a more just and peaceful world. The key is to find practices that resonate with us and to integrate them into our daily routines. Buddhist thought is highly relevant to our world today. The problems we face, from climate change to social inequality, are not just external problems, but also reflections of our inner state. By cultivating mindfulness, compassion, and wisdom, we can create a more just and sustainable world. This is not just about changing the world, but about changing ourselves. The future of Buddhist wisdom is not about creating a new religion or a new dogma. It's about sharing these timeless principles with the world, so that people can discover their own path to freedom and awakening. It's about moving beyond religious labels and embracing a more inclusive and compassionate vision of humanity. It's about offering a path to liberation that is open to everyone, regardless of their beliefs or backgrounds.